Hello, guys, and welcome to the 50-50 Football Podcast, where we serve no other option than to give everything to you 50-50. The World Cup is ongoing, the 2026 FIFA World Cup. All too soon is almost coming to an end. You have a little over just a week for the games to end. This expanded World Cup has already served us unforgettable games, and the quarterfinal lineup looks as gripping as ever. For many, this has been one of the best tournaments so far, but for others who exited the competition earlier, they wish they could have stayed longer. It is the reason why we are enjoying the competition and serving you with the behind-the-scenes conversations and up to speed of what to expect in the coming days. With 8 teams remaining in the tournament, the quarterfinals bring together the top 4 sides in FIFA's pre-tournament men's world rankings, plus 2 more from the top 10. Which nations will make the final 4? We are going to delve a lot more deeper into it and get to see which teams will make the progression. But before we do that, we are going to go back to the round of 16. It was quite surprising. Some predictions were made, but unfortunately, it couldn't come to pass. Well, some goodbyes were made. Cristiano Ronaldo to the World Cup. Well, we don't know if at 45 he will be back for the World Cup that will be happening in Spain, Portugal, and then Morocco. But it looks like it's bye-bye for him. Neymar Santos Jr., he made his final bid with a brilliant penalty taken. Yes, but unfortunately, he's also said goodbye. He wasn't even expected to come to this tournament, but he's bowed out at a very high level. It took Erling Haaland and Norway to get Brazil out once again, and the Seleção still failing to get to the final since 2002. But whoever comes through would have to put it at the back of their mind. It won't come rosy for them. For France, they have Morocco ahead of them. For Spain, Belgium, who seem to have reignited after that episode against the United States, they are going to face off. But in Texas, it would have to be another big challenge for Belgium as to whether they can match the prowess of Spain. Meanwhile, the winners of Norway and England, a match that has already seen the nomadic elements in the Erling Haaland, Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, all these players are going to show how important they are to their teams and why they deserve the Ballon d'Or. But wait to see who stands tall. And for the one team where only one man who makes the impossible look like a routine, Lionel Messi, has Argentina on his shoulders. But Switzerland would come with lots bearing because they managed to pull through against a very, very difficult Colombian side. They will collide in the other semi-final if they manage to progress and face England or Norway in Atalanta. These are the big things we'll talk about. But this World Cup hasn't even ended, and lots of controversies popping up. Following Balogun returning, well, it was quite surprising. And many think that FIFA have all this worked out to favor some teams. We'll wait to see what will happen in the next couple of days. But for us, we are going to delve deeper into what we believe are planned stuff from FIFA. Well, others also believe that it is just coincidence. How can 5 men from one nation officiate a game against their best rivals in the last 2 tournaments? Well, we'll get into that a lot more. My name is Calvin Osuas, and this is another episode of the 50-50 Football Podcast. I'm not doing this alone. I am doing this with my 2, big man, Nana Asari Mangana, Kwaku Safo, Didi. They are going to be my wingmen today, and I'll only be in the middle to try to stay at first. Well, but I'll also make my point because 50-50 Football Podcast, we never take an opinion without any, assumptions being made by the other party. Gentlemen, it's a big night for us. The World Cup has been exciting. Kwaku, are you expecting this to happen? 8 teams, in the quarters.
8 teams in the quarters, 6 from Europe, 1 from South America, 1 from Africa. It's a big surprise for me. I think going into the tournament, we didn't think that at the end, at the quarterfinal stage, you would see just one South American nation or nation from the Americas region in the quarterfinal. We thought this is the American tournament, the weather, the sort of atmosphere, the proximity to home countries would favor a lot of the South American countries and even the Americas themselves. But unfortunately, it hasn't been the case. I thought Colombia would navigate past Switzerland. It didn't happen. The Europeans found a way. I thought that Brazil could find a way to navigate past Norway. I predicted here that Erling Haaland will score. Why did I say that? It's because simple. He always scores against Gabriel. It's a one-sided battle. There's always a physical tussle, but it's been one winner since they started this battle between them. Gabriel always scores. Erling Haaland always scores against Gabriel. And so it's a bit of a strange occurrence or manifestation, should I put it, for me to see that it's 6 European teams in the quarterfinals and just one South American team and one African team. One African team is sort of expected, but due to circumstances that we witnessed, right? And Mangana will bear me out with this. We saw Egypt on the brink of making it.
I was actually even going to point that out, that at the start of the tournament, this would have looked very normal. But just because of how many African teams came out of the group stages and how close most of the games were that got them eliminated, some were ahead and lost it in the final. In fact, most lost it in the final 8-10 minutes of the games. So it's just weird to see the round of to get to the quarterfinals, and so many games were going to be upsets. Literally, you remember I was telling you that this looks like a World Cup. That would be an upset World Cup, but then we were always on the brink of the upset, and then it's brought back down to like business as usual. And now we have teams that definitely at the beginning of the tournament we expected them to be there, barring maybe Switzerland and Norway. But we have most of the teams that we expected to be there.
Yeah, and
we expected those teams to be there. Yeah.
Come on, I think maybe we should spend some time today going into the African, curse or African
that was
disease,
going to be my next question. That capitulation from the African teams, what do you make of it? Is it tactical or is it psychological? Let us know. Or it's about quality.
So there are elements of quality in there, right? But let me put things in context, right? So the minute in which the CAF national teams received the goal that eliminated them, South Africa lost in the 91st minute against Canada. South Africa had the better of the exchanges. Cote d'Ivoire in the 86th minute to an Erling Haaland goal. That shouldn't have happened in the first place. In the 86th minute, the Congolese also considered their goal. In the 125th minute, that's when the Senegalese considered their goal. The Cape Verdeans in the 111th minute, and the Egyptians, unfortunately, in the 92nd minute. Now, hear me out with this, right? I think, largely, I think it's psychological, and people talk about quality. Quality, yes, exists, but hardly will you see in statistical terms an occurrence that 100% or that 100% favors one outcome. It's almost impossible that, hey, listen, whenever I knock on a door, someone opens. I'm using that analogy. There obviously would be a time when you knock on a door when that person will not open, no matter how reliable that person is. And so when that occurrence happens, when the situation, presents itself, when you have the opportunity to actually upset the odds, because mind you, the odds are always in the favor of the big nation. So for instance, Egypt, Argentina, every person and their mother or every person and their dog would, think or would basically opt in or put their money behind Argentina winning the game. And that's fine. However, there's that, center of opportunity, that one iota of opportunity that falls in favor of Egypt when you look at the odds, and statisticians will bear me here. When that occurrence or when that particular situation presents itself, you need to make the most of it, take advantage of it, because that's the only opportunity. That really is your only opportunity. And that's what happened for a team like Egypt. They were in a situation where they had the opportunity to beat world champions Argentina with Lionel Messi, who in some people's books is the greatest of all time. That's another conversation for another day. However, you had the opportunity as at the 79th minute, leading them by 2-0. Forget about the referee being against you. Forget about every odd being against you. You knew that going into the tournament or going into the game. But the very moment you got to that particular position in the 79th minute, when you were leading 2-0, you ought to find a way to see the game through. And when I realized they were going to lose again, when they considered that first goal, that Kuti Romero header, you see what the defenders were doing? They were leisurely walking on the pitch with their arms raised, calling that, oh, it's offside. Oh, don't bother, don't worry, it's offside. It wasn't offside. It was not. Right, so it was never an offside. He was completely onside. The defenders were walking leisurely with their arms up, calling that it was offside. It wasn't offside. Hosam Hassan didn't help the situation either. You have 10 minutes or let's say 11 minutes to end the game. Why are you now opening up even more to play against them? Why are you now bringing on Trezeguet? Why are you now bringing on Omar Mamouche? One person would say the best to defend is to attack, blah, blah, blah. To me, it's complete bullshit. The team that have seen out games when the odds were against them, they defended well, they were resolute in defense. They weren't now bringing on attacking players. They saw it out. They brought on more midfielders, more defenders to see out the game. They didn't bring on more attackers. They did not do that. Yeah. So the very moment you bring on more attackers, what message are you even transmitting to the rest of the team? You're telling them that you want to score more goals. They'll push up more, they'll open up more. And then what did the Argentine coach do? Lionel Scaloni. He brought on 2 number 9s, brought on Lautaro Martinez as well, brought on Nico Gonzalez to take out Tagliafico out so that he would occupy the left-hand channel to make the runs and put in crosses.
And he's an attacker.
He's an attacker, and he freed up Lionel Messi to go into his favorite position, the inside right position, where he can have more space to roam and create. Because when he plays centrally, he was crowded by the central defenders and midfielders of the Egyptians. So he moved him to the right, had more spaces. And how did he score his second goal? He ghosted into the box when they didn't anticipate or expect him to be there. Because he was no more central. He had no business being in the box. He ghosted into the box. They reacted late, saw him late, and he smashed the ball into the back of the net. The goalkeeping should have been better for both goals. Come on. Romero's goal, a stronger arm stops it. He really didn't stretch the goalkeeper. In fact, the goalkeeper even touched it. A stronger arm stops it. But it's spilled milk you're crying over. I think it has to do with mentality. We haven't managed games well. Same thing with Senegal, and I think Mangana explained a lot about it in the previous episode, right? So it's a mentality issue. You can look at the statistics and people will say that oftentimes when we lead, we win, but that's diluting the data. When you dilute the data and you bring in dead rubber matches, which you will see that, when we lead, we win. But when you put the most important games, the games that decide, the knockout games, the deciding games, you realize that almost every single time we throw it away.
Almost every single time Africa throws it away. And I think that, it is quite simple. Mangana, I'm going to say this and then you quickly hit into the England game and what worked for them against Mexico. I think with coaching, it's just that basic. Even those of us during our childhood days, we are playing Wunchendi, that cha-cha football, community football. As soon as you score and it's left with 5 minutes, all of you retreat to even defend your goal. How much more at this tournament? I think you should have even taken cue from some of the coaches. England, and I'm coming to you on that. England, when they realized they were winning already, what they had to do was to bring the hatchet men on, Dan Ben and the likes, to come and just finish the John Stones to come and finish the job for them. Even with 10 men, how much more you with 11 men? So you can even afford to bring more defenders, and then you leave maybe Mohamed Salah just up front for maybe counter-attacking sake. But unfortunately, Captain Hassan, as they call him, I think that he's left Egypt down, just like, Pape Thiaw and the rest of the other coaches let their countries down. But Mangana, let's switch to that England-Mexico game.
Yeah, I have a bit of contribution towards that conversation in itself. So I think in as much as majority of the problem is a mentality problem, the quality gap is also a factor in here, in the sense that it is not just quality of the players, quality of the coaches. A lot of these coaches, are not like the top end, the coaches coaching the African teams are not like the top end of coaches. They are also now trying to make their name and find their way to, being at the top level. So that experience, they also don't have it, just like the players don't have it. And the gap in quality on the player side, when Kweku was stating that they brought on Mamouche and other things, yes, he should have probably brought on defenders to have close up shot. But if the quality was there, that chance Mamouche had when they were 3v1 to just slip the player through, and then they would have made it 3-1, and that would have effectively killed the game. he showed that the quality was not there. And when you leave players like Messi and those with actual quality on the pitch, it doesn't take too much for them to score a goal. Messi's shots that scored, you could tell like they were really, really feeling, they were really, really under the caution. They needed to find something. It wasn't the cleanness of hits, but he hit it strongly, hit it into the ground, and then it ended up in the net. So it's little things like that. The quality players, things come off for them. The other players, you have to make sure everything is right in order for you to make those decisions. You can't have a lapse in judgment where you think, oh, we are 3v1, it's just an easy pass, and then you pass it loosely, and the defender just picks it up. And it was quite frustrating to see them, after such an impressive performance throughout the whole of the 90, to capitulate at such a time, and not even to draw and go to extra time. That to lose it in regulation time was insane to me, albeit the dubious refereeing decisions as well. But it is what it is. Until we continue to experience these things, until we continue to
let's move on to the England-Mexico game.
Yeah, so until we continue to experience these things and then like be in these positions several times and build up our responses, it's always going to end like this. Now, when it comes to the England game, it was a very, very good game. I remember when we had a conversation with Kwame from the United and Everything Football podcast. I talked about England playing against the occasion, like playing against the fans, and it's not about the 11 on the pitch alone. And you could see the atmosphere that the Mexicans created. You could see how the atmosphere buoyed the team on. So Mexico started the exchanges, and they were literally in control of the game. They had more possession. They were more assertive in the game. And England, for the first 20 minutes, as Kwame also said, like if England can survive the first 20 minutes, you could tell the first 20 minutes they were under the caution. They were just like trying to stay in the game and not let Mexico go ahead. But then England had what the big players have done all tournament. Jude Bellingham just showed up, and within 3 minutes, bang, bang, pulled the game away from Mexico. And then General Kwanzaa has a head loss challenge. They go down to 10 men. Mexico get into the game. And England, once again, Hurricane coming to the fore, make it 3-1. For like a team, for the occasion they were playing in and how big a game it was, considering that they haven't won in the Azteca, for them to have showed such resolve and performed the way they performed, even with 10 men, bringing on Damben, who made a very huge block when Raul Jimenez went with the overhead kick. I think that overhead kick, if he didn't block it, it would end up in the back of the net. Like, those were the kind of people, like, they were together. They felt like, yeah, this is what we need to do. And they played, like, with intensity, locked in, made sure that they were covering their spaces, even as being 10 men. And they did everything that they needed to do to prevent Mexico from drawing the game. Because, mind you, if Mexico had equalized, they would have taken the game away from England.
They would have taken the game away from England. Kwaku, Cristiano Ronaldo says goodbye to everyone at the World Cup, but for the European Championship and other tournaments, maybe he's going to pop up. But for the World Cup, I'm not sure he thinks he will be back again at the age of 45. What did not work?
I don't think so too.
What didn't work for Portugal this time around? Roberto Martinez.
I think before I speak about Roberto Martinez, it's important that, I give an ode to Cristiano Ronaldo for all that he's done, the body of work for football. It's impossible. I know he leaves the World Cup, but not football history. It's important. A generation measured greatness against his standards. I measured greatness against his standards. Every single one of us, one way or the other, measured greatness against his standards. Even the biggest Lionel Messi fan in their closet has hit the Sue one time or even twice. Trust me, it's happened. And so the relentless work ethic, the impossible goals, the records, the longevity, the obsession with winning. Listen, a final whistle ends a career at the World Cup, but it doesn't end his legacy. So thank you, Cristiano Ronaldo, for all that you've done. We've talked a lot about the Portugal team and what went wrong, and for me the biggest thing that went wrong was the Portugal football leadership not realizing the sort of player or the sort of legend, the magnitude of player that they have in their squad, and not moving heaven and earth to ensure that he won the World Cup. I think that's the main thing that went against them. And I would also like to apologize to people like Kima and I think Prince. A couple of episodes ago when we started 50-50 podcast and we're discussing Man United, especially after what's the name of the coach? Ruben Amorim was sacked. I was touting Roberto Martinez as the next.
You would have collapsed your team.
Yeah, I did that. And, I'm not shy to say I was wrong. I was wrong. That man is a brilliant communicator. When you listen to him, when you listen to his interviews, when you listen to his podcasts, you would fall in love with him. People talk about his tenure at Belgium, and I'll defend that on any day. I think he did his best with the Belgian team. They lost to the eventual champions, France 1-0. You can't blame them for that. The following, Euros was a bit too far for them because they had lost company, Vertonghen, Thomas Vermaelen, and some of the other players. So what went wrong was the Portuguese team and the leadership not ensuring that every single thing that they did was in favor of Cristiano Ronaldo. What did the Argentine FA do, especially after Lionel Messi's early retirement? They made sure that they put everything in place for him to win. They brought in Lionel Scaloni. They instituted that thing that this is Lionel Messi's team. Everything that we are doing is to ensure Messi wins. You don't even talk about you are doing this for the Argentine people. They've said it in interviews, and this is not me guessing or just throwing things about. They've said it in interviews that we want to make Lionel Messi win. We saw the airline that they brought to US for the World Cup. They had literally painted Lionel Messi's jersey on the airline. So if you are boarding that airplane, you are being told that this is Messi's ship and you are just a passenger in it. You are here to ensure that Messi wins. And how did they even set up their team? They set up their team in a 4-4-2 system that Messi doesn't even have to run around and defend. What's his name? The guy in the 7 shirt. I always forget his name.
Joao Felix?
No. I'm talking about Argentina.
Rodrigo de Paul.
Mangana, we can't hear you. Mangana, we can't hear you.
We still can't hear you.
Rodrigo de Paul?
De Paul, yes. So Rodrigo de Paul has one job. He all he does is defend the right-hand side so that Messi doesn't have to track back. That's all Rodrigo de Paul does. And so he defends on the right end for Lionel Messi. And a similar job was done at Barcelona by Rakitic when Barcelona won the Champions League. And also when what's the name of the manager? Ernesto Valverde was the manager of Barcelona. All Rakitic had to do was to defend the right-hand side. And that's exactly what De Paul has done from the the Copa America that they won against Brazil. And then they went on to win the World Cup in 2022. Now, if you look at how they won the World Cup in 2022, it's quite similar. They played in games where they almost lost. So remember the first game they lost actually to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Remember they were almost eliminated by Australia. Just one goal. There was even a goal line clearance by Lisandro Martinez in that game, in the dynamics of that game.
Yeah. Martinez has also been huge for them in this World Cup.
Right. So again, it's like those things, like I call them a bunch of bandits, and I don't mean that in any derogatory way. All I'm trying to say is that they come in to fight. They're not there to play pretty football. They are just there to get a result, and that's how we play tournament football. You play to win. Everything else comes in secondary. And why do I say all this? And one might think I might be digressing. Portugal were obsessed with needless stuff. They were obsessed with possession statistics, the number of triangles that they were forming on the pitch, how many times Vitinha has the ball. They barely played forward passes. Bruno Fernandes had a horrible tournament. I once said that Bruno Fernandes could do no wrong in my eyes. I've said this before, especially after he kept Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the job. But he was extremely horrible all tournament. In their last game against Spain, where times he had the ball, he could have released it quickly to play a forward pass. He would play the pass backwards and he would lift his hand to Ronaldo up top and say, you know what, I'm sorry, or whatever, wait, or I don't know what he was trying to communicate at that point. And so the Portuguese team were horrible. They were obsessed with needless things instead of focusing on winning, no matter how they had to do it. They were focusing on their shape, their balance, their possession. Needless things. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. None of that matter. Just go in there and win.
If you're executing a game plan, that was the game plan they were executing.
Your game plan is to win. That's all I'm saying. That your game plan should be to win. Process should be secondary, especially in a World Cup where you know that you're playing maximum 8 games. Process should be secondary. Process should not be the most important outcome. The most important outcome should be the results.
Unfortunately, that wasn't
the teams that win the World Cup have made the results the most important outcome for them. Now look at Spain. Spain are now playing transition football. We used to think we used to call them a death by 1,000 passes. They would pass you to death and eventually get the goal. That's what they used to do. So that's why they would parade about 6 midfielders in a game. Remember, they would play with Fabregas, with David Silva, with Xabi Alonso, with Iniesta and Busquets. They would play 6 midfielders and play just one winger and Jesus Navas. And even sometimes they wouldn't even play Navas just to carry the ball when they need to, right? But now they've become such a transition side, although yes, their technical quality is showing, but almost every single pass, 8 out of 10 passes that they play forward. 8 out of 10 passes that they played forward. So it's important to recognize these things. Results matter. Process should be secondary. A lot of coaches have, they hide behind, process and passing and statistics to earn 11. At tournament, you'll be exposed. At tournament, you will be exposed. France won the World Cup in 2018. Did they play any beautiful football? No, they were very much a transition side. They were very much a transition. They relied a lot
pragmatic.
Very pragmatic. They relied a lot on Mbappe's pace. They played a midfield of Kante, Matuidi, and Paul Pogba. And then they had, Griezmann in front of them as playing as a number 10 behind Giroud and Mbappe. Right? And they made it work. In the last World Cup that we played, Argentina were extremely pragmatic. Extremely pragmatic. The only game that they started fast, started strong, was against France in the first half, where they were almost unplayable because they started really quickly and they caught the French, unaware. And so they got the goals. And even that, in the second half, they struggled because they had spent all their energy running around. Right, so Portugal have themselves to blame. I heard that they brought on a new manager. Hopefully it works for them. It's Jorge Jesus, right? So the former Al Nassr manager worked with Ronaldo, but I think he's coming a bit too late for Ronaldo. Ronaldo has already announced that he will not be at the next World Cup. Next Euros, maybe if I were him, I wouldn't bother playing in that next Euros.
I think he should just retire from international football.
That's what I think. But I think he has his eyes on the 1,000 goals, and so he's trying to balance it out. Once
there'll be a couple friendlies he can knock a few in to get there. But anyway, thank you for the quick lamentation.
Mangan, I have a question for you, and maybe Kelvin and Mangan, I have a question for you.
Right.
Do you think Ronaldo was a problem for the Portuguese team? I know we asked this question in the past.
No, he was never the problem for the Portuguese team. I think that the problem was from the rest of the players. Absolutely no team would have a player like Ronaldo and not be picking him or playing to suit him. Look at Argentina. Everything they do is clearly to suit Messi. When he was struggling centrally, what did he do? Just like you mentioned, Scaloni only had to just push him to the right-hand side and tell him, do whatever he had to do. Look at France. From the start of the tournament, you could see they are playing to suit what? Kylian Mbappe. Even there are times you think that Olise and the likes, to shoot from quite a distance. They are looking for Kylian Mbappe. Look at England. They have been searching for Harry Kane until Kane and Bellingham agree that, come on, we exchange roles so that we confuse opponents. And both of them are benefiting from it. It has been the same. Look at Switzerland. Embolo, no matter how he plays, they play to shoot him. They are always fighting him because when the scraps drop, you want the likes of Elvedi, you want the likes of Dan Ndoye, you want the likes of Johan Manzambi or Ruben Vargas to pick up on those loose ends and then at least get goals. So if you have these players and they are not feeding Ronaldo, how is it that we come to a tournament in a game crucial like this? And Bruno Fernandes, who had 22 assists in the Premier League, cannot find Cristiano Ronaldo in the box. It doesn't make any sense. Then what was he doing even with the Manchester? Because if you put Ronaldo before any coach, you put Matheus Cunha in Buemo at the biggest stage of world football, and you ask the coach to pick any one of them, it's going to pick Ronaldo because the the probability for him to get you the goals or finish chances is greater than these two. So why don't you feed him the more? You cannot starve your striker and expect him to get goals. It never works. And that is what happened to Brazil. You cannot starve your strikers and not, and expect them to get goals. So I think that, and all boils down to coaching. If the coach sees this and he doesn't resolve it, that's his problem.
Yeah, like I said, he wasn't the problem, and I think I've said this before. If you look at the strikers that Portugal have, you don't see any of them pulling up any trees where they are playing. So who else are you going to put as your starting number 9? So it's not like they have any other player, any other strikers that we would say, oh, this guy has scored this number of goals, or this guy is playing this way in this top league, in this top team, so he should be starting. So there's no one else to start than Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, when it comes to the players, I don't think the players are intentionally say, oh, I'm not going to pack. I think it is a coaching. It is purely a coaching decision. If people who have watched when you watched United, when what do you call it, Cristiano Ronaldo came back, wasn't the same Bruno Fernandes finding Cristiano Ronaldo to score goals, right? We all saw Bruno Fernandes' interview.
We can pull the stat of the number of times he assisted him.
I'm not done. He still assisted him to score goals.
When you're done, I'll push my rebuttal.
And when we also saw the Diary of the CEO thing, he plays what the coach communicates to him, how he should play. So, and if you think that the coach says they should feed Cristiano Ronaldo and they're not feeding Cristiano Ronaldo, and he still says, oh, okay, you're not feeding Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm still going to start all of you to not continue to feed Cristiano Ronaldo. How does that work? You get what I mean? So it's not like the players are not passing. It was a system that the coach had decided to play, and that was what they decided to implement. It clearly didn't work because they were slow, and anytime they got the ball, because they decided to pass 5 yards, 10 yards, and had defense reset, it was always going to be difficult for them to find Cristiano Ronaldo when the defense has been set, because everyone knows that is your danger man. So if you are playing against a set defense, they are always going to mark him. So what you have to do is play quick, play fast, move the ball quicker so that you can have Cristiano Ronaldo in spaces that you can find him quickly. But then they would always get the ball and then they would just stand 5, 10 yards and they'll just pass each other 10. And then
I can tell you it was intentional. Players at this top level cannot say that, they were too slow. They just decided not to find the man with the ball. We know Vitinha and his range of passing. We know Bruno Fernandes and his range of passing.
I said, Mangana did this just to defend Bruno. He did this. I know him too well. He said that just to defend Bruno.
Look, we are all making assumptions as to why.
No. I have evidence to back it, and I can tell you what happened now.
What evidence that you have that the players said they weren't going to pass? No,
I don't need to say what they said. I don't need to say what they said. I can show you
that the players intentionally are not passing Cristiano Ronaldo.
Listen, I can show you certain actions on the pitch that tell you that they just don't want to pass the ball forward quickly to him. See, there was one exchange, right? Ronaldo made a move. He was completely in open space. They didn't pass the ball to him. Bruno Fernandes raised his hand up to apologize. After he himself took the ball back, the Ronaldo was complaining. Now, next move, Nuno Fernandes makes a darting run into the box. Nuno Mendes makes that run into the box, and they quickly play the ball forward to him. And then I begin to ask myself, why did you do that for Bruno? You didn't do that. You've not done that for Ronaldo when he's made several runs.
And did you ask yourself?
We can go down this rabbit hole.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I don't need to ask myself.
Did you ask yourself?
I said I don't need to ask myself.
If that is happening, why didn't the coach also bench them and play who will pass Cristiano Ronaldo?
We've talked about him already. We've talked about the coach's feelings already.
Let's continue.
Like I said, you just want to defend. What's his name? You want to defend Bruno Fernandes and everything Man United, and that's fine.
It's not a defense of Bruno Fernandes and everything Man United.
Push back and say what
it's not a defense of Bruno Fernandes and Manchester United. It's a defense of
want to do.
If you have a manager. Then what's the point of the manager? Then you can sack the manager and let the players play. If the manager is not the one that
is okay. We end it here. We drop it here.
Kelvin, you realize how when we talk about Argentina,
I have put an embargo on that. Let's quickly move on. No, nobody is
having any line.
Now let's move on to Neymar. Let's move on to Neymar Jr. Neymar in Brazil.
He shouldn't have come on the game.
Or Brazil Brazil did not have the quality to get past, the Norwegians.
Brazil,
or you blame
Brazil
an
didn't have the
individual
quality.
error.
There's no individual error. I just think Brazil didn't have the squad or the quality at the level that we expect Brazil to always be at to compete. Bringing Neymar was important because it is Neymar. But when they needed a goal, or when they needed, like, I think he substituted, what do you call it? He substituted Cunha too early.
Yeah.
Considering that he was the one that had won the penalty for you. And he's been good for the all tournaments since he started him. And so I think that change came way too early. And when they needed a goal, bringing on Neymar, considering the injury that he's had, and then it just threw the whole thing out of balance. Because now they couldn't even track back or press because they had Neymar, who can't necessarily do that at this point in time. So they put themselves in a spot where it was going to be difficult for them to get a ball off Norway. And Norway just kept, popping the ball around, keeping possession. So I just think Brazil didn't have the squad. Like, we all knew Brazil didn't have the squad to go all the way in the tournament. But they also shot themselves in the foot in the final game by some of the changes they made and just how they decided to play. So they need to go back to the drawing board. Ancelotti needs to do a lot of work with the current crop of Brazil players. I don't know how good the current crop is compared to the previous Brazil teams. They are nowhere close, but they still could find a way that can make them play efficiently. But this was just, I don't think there was any game that Brazil really stamped the authority in the tournament. It always looked like at some point when they met someone who was strong enough, they would lose. And this time it was Erling Haaland.
I think the game of football, the game of football, fine margins do count. And the fine margins is what got, Norway, getting the victory. Number one, Gabriel, Haaland too well from the Premier League. In that crucial moment of the game, you don't try to win the ball. And especially with this World Cup, where there is an allowance for you to get physicality.
Yeah.
It was a great opportunity for him to just batch, Haaland off and prevent him from jumping to get a very good connection.
Yeah.
But he decided to try attack the ball. By the time you realize his pocket had been, picked by Erling Haaland. That was quite, poor from him. And that gave, Norway that opportunity. But not to take anything away from the Norwegians. They have quality all around. If you have Haaland, who is a lethal weapon up front. Patrick Berg, let's not forget, Bodo Glimt, the Champions League. He was an instrumental figure in that midfield. Martin Odegaard, for all his injury issues, when he's fit enough and he's at his A game, he's a disturbance to any midfield and defense. Sander Berger, his height, his physical presence, his control, he was virtually the switch for the Norwegian team. Ryerson didn't have a good game, but this is a player who plays for Borussia Dortmund, one of the big sides in Europe, plays the Champions League Europe every season. Nyland, the goalkeeper, 35 years, plays for Sevilla, has all the experience at stake. The likes of Ajay and Ajay in the Premier League, they have players who play in Bologna and top quality players. So,
Kelvin, I mean, you recall, right, before the tournament started, I made a statement that Norway were going to be the dark horse of the tournament. People called the bluff of it. People said, "Oh, Norway, no way. Norway, no way." That's what they said.
Bas, my nigga,
bas. but see what has happened, right? And it's exactly what you said. They have a very, very decent squad. People hadn't taken notice of it. They have a very decent squad. Andre Sheldrop came from the bench and he literally changed the game for them, right on the wing. He started putting in crosses, started creating for them. And people don't know Andre Sheldrop. He played for Mourinho's team at Benfica. And he had a stellar second half of the season. Don't forget that they had Andre Seloff. And Seloff is working so hard just because they want Haaland to score. And again, we talk about the star players. Everyone on the team is working so hard to get Haaland in the perfect conditions to do what he does best, to score goals. And that's why Seloff sacrifices to play on the right and runs up and down the flank for him. Seloff with his 6'7" frame or whatever, such a big guy on the right wing. He's not even a dribbler. He's not even a pace merchant. but he has a job for them because what he has to do is to defend on the right, make sure he runs up and down the flank, and whenever they have the ball, he joins Haaland in the box to create chaos and get Haaland the conditions to score goals, and it's working for them. It is working for them. You mentioned the likes of Patrick Berg. There's Osanes as well on the bench who plays for Benfica.
Yes.
Decent midfielder as well. Okay, so people should take note of Rice. I think it's a nice segue. People should take note of Norway. And I think, Kelvin, is a nice segue to really discuss that England-Norway fixture. I think
so
in as much as
we are moving into the preview of the quarterfinals now. And yes, just roll into it. England-Norway.
Yeah, England. I would love to hear Mangana's thoughts on this. Before I even go in. Mangana, what do you think going into that game?
This is your team from the Mexico game.
He's a Three Lions fan. He's a big English fan. So I'd like to hear his thoughts.
This will be their toughest game in terms of opposition that can defend and also hurt them at the same time. There's not like Ghana who were who just defended, so they had to find ways to break that down, or Mexico who were more playing on the occasion. This is a team that has quality in attack, just like England have quality in attack. Can also keep the ball in midfield, which England doesn't really have in terms of keeping the ball in midfield, and has a better defensive unit in terms of how they defend overall. And England's defense has been a bit iffy. So in this game, England are really going to be tested, especially Haaland going against Konsa and Gehi. We've seen how physical, strong Haaland is.
Mangana, just say it bluntly. He will eat them like biscuits. The truth of the matter is that he knows all of them.
He knows them. He plays with them.
He's been banking on them week in, week out.
He's been playing with them. So the difference...
He's been banking on them week in, week out.
I think the difference that could be made in this game, or the advantage that England could have, would be how Thomas Tuchel decides to set up and negate the opportunities, the threat that is Haaland. I think the best way to go would be to prevent the ball getting to Haaland. They should make sure that the passing lanes towards Haaland is always closed. Because if it comes down to a physical 1v1 battle with any of the defenders, Haaland will win that 8 out of 10 times every time. So their best bet would be make sure that if whoever plays in midfield, whether it's Rice and Anderson, or whichever combination of midfielders he decides to play, they need to block their spaces, make sure that they constrict their spaces in midfield, or at least make sure that they press Norway as soon as Norway cross the halfway line. Because if they allow Norway to have the ball and pass it around and be able to find Haaland, it's going to cause a problem for them every time.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you start Dan Ben in this game?
As a centre-back?
I mean, you could play instead of Nico Riley to form a back three when they are in possession of the ball, attacking and make sure that they are taking good care of Haaland. I'm just throwing ideas around.
I think he is good. I don't think I'm not going to start him. If I'm going to start him, it will be for one of the centre backs, but not as a left back to become like a third central midfielder, if you get what I mean. Because Nico O'Reilly provides them something going forward. He's also very strong on the ball and he keeps possession quite well.
I want us to get into the mechanics of the game and what's going to happen. They're going to play with Selot and they're going to play with Haaland, two big men up front, who are both a handful in attack, especially when the balls get into the box, right? Do you think that there's value in maybe playing, I first of all talked about substituting Nico Raleigh for Dan Ben, or perhaps taking out McGahey, since he's the smallest of the centre-backs, to bring on someone like Dan Ben, who's, he's tall, he's physical, he's imposing. He can also challenge aerially. Do you think there's any value, or you'd rather go with what they've been doing, because they have a set defense already?
I would go with what they've been doing, mostly because we've not seen Dan Ben beyond that 10-15 minutes cameo for the England-Mexico game just to come and do a job. So in terms of chemistry, if they don't really have a bond, they've not really played together, they will not necessarily have that chemistry where Haaland can just say, okay, they are not linking up too well, so I can play on that to get space between those two because they don't know where they are standing at each point in time. So I'll stick with the two that have played. I mean, Gehi also, in as much as Haaland plays with Gehi also knows Haaland. So there's a little bit of what do you call it? Intelligence he may have gleaned from how Haaland plays and be like, okay, Konsa, I need you to always, be this amount of distance away from me because we need to double up on Haaland if we have any chance of stopping him. So
I think the game is closer than people even think, right? Yeah. The last time they played was in 2014. England won 1-0. Yeah. In 2012, again, England won 1-0. That was a friendly. In 2014 as well, that was a friendly as well. They won 1-0, of course, a Wayne Rooney goal. Now, goes to 0, right? Norway, let's not forget that they had Alfie Haaland and all those legends of the team at the time. Now, it's closer than what people think. It wouldn't be that free scoring game that people might think England would walk over them. The English should know that going into this game, it's going to be tough. And I would say the Norwegians have shown that they have a fight in them. They fought very hard against the Ivorians to win 2-1. And then they fought very hard against the Brazilians to win 2-1. They've already surpassed their expectations for the World Cup. And so they would go into this game with everything that they have, especially when the players know a lot about the English boys. I've said the time again, Haaland knows all about the English defenders and then their goalkeeper. He knows the error that he has in him. He knows them all too well. Sandenberg knows the midfielders all too well. Patrick Berg played against Man City twice, right? In the UEFA Champions League last season. He knows them all too well, right? So Oscar Bob trains with them. He knows them very well. Aja is in post, So, Aja is in the central defense, right? Lastly, in the Champions League final before. He's very experienced. He knows what to do. I think it's closer than what people think. I think if England wins this game, it would be from the bench. And by the bench, it would be by Thomas Tuchel's tactical brilliance. But let's not forget that it's two pragmatic coaches meeting each other. Solbakken is also a pragmatist. He's also a pragmatist. He would give them the necessary respect and he would try to hurt them as much as possible. And he's not afraid to make a change. We've seen that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's closer than what people think. I wouldn't stick my neck out, but what I know for sure is going to happen.
Stick your neck. Let me push you.
Haaland is going to score. Haaland is going to score. That's all I can say, Kelvin.
Mangana, who advances?
England will advance. Haaland won't score. It will be 1-0 England.
Okay, 1-0 England. I think that what will separate England and then Norway would be the impact of Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane. They are too hot to handle at this tournament. It's going to be very difficult, especially when Bukayo Saka is also especially when Bukayo Saka is fit and available now. Look at that delivery to Bellingham to get that opener against
that is actually what I'm looking. Is he going to start Saka? Because if he does start Saka, Saka provides a different kind of problem for the defense. If he is coming off the bench can Noni Madueke do a good enough job?
You don't even have to introduce Madueke at a point. The other players who can just do the job. That boy doesn't even add anything. Let's move on to France. France-Morocco, that is also a tight game. I know, yes, you guys
are also a very tight game. Kelvin and I would like to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, so
I think that would be the spectacle of the round of the quarterfinals.
Exactly. Let's hear from Kelvin because he's a Libley fan. And Kelvin, before you even go in, and I like to also draw people's attention that a lot of these Moroccan boys trained in French academies. They were born in France, trained in French academies. They know these boys.
Yes.
And they'll be very, very buoyed by the occasion. Let's not forget that they were in the semifinals of the World Cup in 2022 and they lost to France. Exactly. Let's not forget that they lost to France in that semi-final. So they had that experience of facing France. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on that and how you think your team, the French, would approach this game.
Well, it's a quest that they want to. And I love how they've approached this particular tournament. They are, coming into the tournament, or even when the tournament started, it was more like they are playing from Mbappe. But now they've identified their strength and realized that they're going to get fixated on one or two players. They are going to be knocked out of the competition. So now they are playing collectively as a team. If Dembele scores to ease things up for them, good to go. If Doué scores to ease things out for them, good to go. If Mbappe scores to ease things out for them, if Bradley Bacola is the person in a very good position to pick up the pass and score, they will feed him. Now, what I think many teams haven't exploited is that France midfield. But I think occasion by occasion, they are able to resolve or answer the questions that is posed by teams. Coming to the tournament, I had virtually no trust with that French midfield. Aurelien Tchouameni had a terrible season with Real Madrid.
Calvin, I think they seem to play to the level of opponents they are playing. It's like if they are playing a better opponent, they raise their game. So you can't really tell what level they are at.
Yes, but before the tournament, it was clearly obvious that France was going to have a problem. And there's a reason why Didier Deschamps decided to bring N'Golo Kante. But he came to the tournament and he hasn't even kicked any ball. All because
maybe this might be it.
Are doing the job. Olise and the likes are even tracking, but Dembele is doing a lot more defensive work. Where he's doing more defensive work. Even Kylian Mbappe, when it gets difficult, he doesn't stay up. He drops in deep to come and help build the attack. Now, what I think Morocco would offer is the likes of Bilal El Khanous. If Saibari gets fit enough and comes in, I think that these are the players going to cause a lot of trouble. And you're talking about the French players, the Moroccan players who were trained French. Ayub Boadi was supposed to be the next big thing to happen to the French team because he captained the under-21s just recently. And he only decided to join Morocco and his documentation was finalized on the 15th of May, less than a month to the tournament, which clearly tells you he's someone who had been a major part of this, French development, routine from Clairefontaine, up till now. But unfortunately, he's joined the other. But the question is, would Morocco have the individual brilliance and quality? Collectively as a team, yes, just like they did in 2022. But would they have players individually stand up to them? I still think they have a deficiency in that defense. If it was Romain Saiz playing, I wouldn't have had an issue because he had played at top level and understood the dynamics of the game. Even at that tournament, France had to just beat them narrowly. Now, looking at Issa Diop, I have seen...
So Kelvin, that's what I wanted to remind people. Yeah. Like, France only beat them due to individual quality last time.
Yes.
Morocco dominated the game in terms of everything from possession to shots to corner kicks, everything. Mm-hmm. They completely battered the French, but it was the quality, the individual quality that the French had. Scored in the first half, scored in the very late in the second half. I think it was from Kolo Muani to win that game. So again, it's going to be closer than what people think.
But Calvin, I think that is what do you think about the battle on the flank with the inspired performance Nusem Mazraoui seems to have found in that position against what do you call it?
Dembele. Man U, everything.
If you've watched Morocco's games, you would see that he's been a standout performer in terms of how he defends.
So now they need a different test. And for all the wingers that they've, like Mazraoui has faced, I'm not sure any of those wingers are as lethal as Doué, as Olise, or as Dembele. These guys offer different dimension and they can switch to play centrally. And then the next time you see Olise, he's on the right flank. The next time you see Dembele, he's on the left. Kylian Mbappe on the right. And you have Doué central or Bacola central, depending on how they reshuffle during the game. But I still think that the only problem for Morocco is if Achraf Hakimi wants to combine those defensive duties with his attacking duties, then he should know that this is a French team that is not going to have the ball held by Antoine Griezmann. Olise will quickly look at Mbappe and spread the pass. And when the pass goes, by the time you recover, it will be at the back of the net with an instinctive Mbappe who is just looking at sending France to another World Cup glory. So I think the individual brilliance is what is going to hurt this Morocco team. Mazraoui may be very difficult to get past, but like I have said, the French team have players. When Bacola was struggling in their game against Paraguay, who are very ragged, Didier Doué only came on and he needed just one moment to cause a penalty, which I think someone like Issa Diop is going to have problems dealing with France's attackmen, because the least thing they do is just going to go in ragged, and then it could probably end in, a penalty or a free kick in very dicey positions for them. But it's going to be tough, just like it happened in 2022. But I still think that, quality-wise, even in terms of managers, Didier Deschamps is way ahead of Ayub Boadi. Mohamed Wabi. So
Wabi.
it's tight, but I think that France, with their individual quality, should get past them, maybe narrowly. Morocco will come with their threat, but I think that what I have seen from the French team, if Morocco wants to head the French team, there's only one position they need to keep hitting. That is on the right-hand side of France's defense, where they have Upamecano and Jules Koundé. And that is where I think Bilal El Khanous will ask lots of questions. But as he asks the questions, he would have to think about supporting Mazraoui, because France would have Dembele and then Olise overloading that side as well. So it's fine margins that do count. Yassine Bono hasn't been the same, brilliant, excellent goalkeeper that we saw, 4 years ago. Mike Menya has his own issues, and I think that Morocco should take their chances from, a distance and see how best they can, surprise the French team with what they have. But just like I said, individual brilliance, France, but the quality will just stop it.
That's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a slim victory for the French, just because of the quality that they have. If they weren't going into this tournament with that attacking threat that they have across, all areas, like you mentioned, Olise, there's Redoué, there's Bradley Bacola, there's Kylian Mbappe, who's the best of them all. There's Ousmane Dembele, who's been in inspired form, last couple of years. I would have stuck my neck out for the Moroccans, but the firepower in attack is just too much. I think the Moroccans would have majority of the possession. I think Ayub Boadi would have an amazing game together with Enoui in midfield. But Unahi again sitting on top of them at the number 10, right? But unfortunately, they would try to also exploit the right-hand side of the Moroccan defense, which, what's his name? Hakimi, he's obviously an auxiliary attacker for them. So it's going to be interesting. That's how Vinicius scored his goal against the Moroccans. Hakimi has surged forward, made the run, got the ball, with a 1v1 with Riyad, brought him in and, shot and scored. I think it's going to be a similar game like they played against the Brazilians. I think Moroccans will start fast, start strong, but as the game goes on, the French would warm up into the game and their quality will show, the individual quality will show. I think it's going to be an individual action that's going to lead to the goal. Listen, offensively, Boadi and his partner need to be on song. Remember the sort of work that, what's his name? Mangana reminded me, the midfielder that came to Man United from Morocco. He came on loan.
Amrabat.
The sort of performance Amrabat had against France.
That was 2022.
4 years ago. 4 years ago. I think Ayub Boadi and his partner need to replicate such performances again to ensure
that run
that
to block Kylian Mbappe. That was like a lung-busting run.
Lung-busting run to do that. So I think they need to replicate that sort of form to ensure that Morocco stands a chance. Listen, I want Morocco to qualify. I would love for Morocco to qualify. But due to circumstances beyond control, including a team that's capable of stopping Lionel Messi from winning this trophy back-to-back, I'm sticking my neck out for the French.
Well, let's quickly move on. I think this one is going to be very brief. Belgium, Spain, Kwaku. Mangana, let me come to you. Belgium, Spain, just a minute and pick who wins.
I don't think Belgium have a prayer in this game, but Spain are not going to beat them 4-5-0. I think it will be an efficient performance from the Spanish, 1-0 or 2-0, but they won't stress to score that goal.
All right, Kwaku, do you think otherwise? Belgium seem to have picked up, after being angered by USA.
Yeah. I think the USA caused this on themselves. This whole Balogun issue. I don't think President Trump should have interfered in this at all. He should have allowed the rules of football to prevail. And so I think it sort of fired up the Belgians, the Red Devils of Belgium, to really come at them. Charlie de Catalari getting 2 goals in that game. Again. Romelu Lukaku coming from the bench and scoring the final goal to put the nail on the coffin for them. I think the Belgians have also found some sort of form, strangely, especially after the game, but after the game against Senegal. But honestly, I think the Spanish should beat them.
Yeah, it wasn't form. They just decided that they were going to take out the legs that they didn't have in midfield and bring in actual legs. So they took out
Kevin De
Bruyne and I think Doku also sat on the bench, and then they brought the kids that put in the efforts to
they brought in Luki Bikayo to the right and then moved Trossard to the left.
And that's what they needed to do, because
in midfield.
If they hadn't, they would have been overrun. The US would have run them to the ground with De Bruyne and all those slower players that they had. But I think that this is their best route if they want to even try and qualify, and then they can bring what's his name? They can bring De Bruyne and Doku in to kind of give them that X factor if the game is still level. But I don't see how they're going to win.
The Spanish team is going to win the game. Like you mentioned earlier, I think the Spanish team is going to win. Yeah, and then of course the big one, Lionel Messi plays again. He survived one more time against.
Can Switzerland be the final straw?
It's tough for me to see that happening. Honestly, it's tough for me to see that. Do they have experienced players? Yes, they do have experience. Could they see out a game unlike the Egyptians did? Perhaps they could see out a game unlike the Egyptians did. But can they even get themselves in that position in the first place to be able to see out that game? That's what I doubt.
Even if you get yourself in their position, in fact, you
are playing against. You are not wrestling just humans.
You are not
just principalities. Principalities from Zurich.
Well, I get it.
Up there.
And that sets us up into our final word for today. And I'm going to give each and everyone this one. I'm going to time it 2 minutes for each. What do you make of the officiating, decisions that are being made on the pitch and off the pitch, even before tournaments? I just want this 20 seconds of my own. I think that as tournament goes on, nations who have, or referees who have their nation still in the tournament, must be allowed to go home, so that the rest of the other nations who are not participating, those officials do officiate the rest of the matches. They are equally competent. That is why you bring them on. And I don't see why. We all know in the last 2-3 tournaments, France and Argentina have become, if not rivals, but they are, the close contestants for the trophy. Why do you bring, referees from each other to come and officiate their crucial games? And I don't think it is fair enough. FIFA should take a look at this. For the officiating inconsistencies, we have seen it from 2022. You talk about it and talk about it. All you need is a resolute team to get past Argentina when you play against them, because the decisions that will be taken against, your team, it won't be taken against Argentina. So I think
that's the thing, inconsistency. That's it.
Out of that. Yeah. So
inconsistency.
I think when we say inconsistency, it makes it we actually downplaying the phenomenon. It is consistency, but consistency that only favors certain sides, and then
consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, consistently
consistent favor. Consistent favor to Argentina.
I loved how we could tell the directive from the beginning of the tournament that they would allow the players to play. Like, it was going to be physical. They would let a lot of things go. And I love that about the game. It was good. But then the preponderance of dubious decisions just essentially favoring certain teams.
Hey. My friend, we won't tolerate it.
Why you didn't interrupt the flow? Make her finish. So, those decisions always go in the way of one team, and we could tell, even a typical example was the Egypt-Argentina game. When Egypt scored, look at how far back they reviewed the goal to find something to disallow the goal. And then the same kind of circumstances happens for Egypt to score, and there's no review at all. At all. England against Ghana, someone kung fu kicks a player, there's no review at all. We move on quickly, and Ghana is not awarded a penalty. And you see constantly that these decisions go for the supposed bigger nations. But if you are saying that these nations are better, you've ranked them that they are the better, then you should allow for their football to show that they are better. Constantly, slightly putting your thumb on the scale to decide these games doesn't help grow the tournament. It doesn't help the fandom to appreciate the tournament the way it needs to be appreciated. And I think sometimes the focus on revenue and making a spectacle in order to draw in the kind of money that they want from sponsors causes them to do some of these things that essentially mask the beautiful game. And it's sad to see.
The game. Sad
Honestly,
to see.
I have nothing
wrap
to
it all
add.
up for us.
I have nothing to add here. He has said everything. The prepare what again?
Preponderance of dubious decisions. He didn't hear the tell me scintillances, right? If you guys say we don't hear.
Mark, I have a question for you, and this is beyond the fact. I mean, I think both of you have summed it all. I don't need to go ahead and rehash what you said again. I agree with both of what you said. My question to you is simple. This afternoon, I mean, before we got here to record, we read the news that Man United have signed or on the verge of signing Andre Santos. I know we are talking about the World Cup, but come on, it's Man United, and I'd like to hear your thoughts, Mangana.
I've not watched that boy play a lot. The only thing I can say about that transfer is clearly the targets that they were going for didn't materialize for them. They were blown out of the water by Spurs, the bid and the salaries that they are willing to pay. The only case I can make for them is we saw them bring in Lamens and we all thought, why didn't they go for Martinez? After all, you are signing Premier League proven, and then we've seen Lamens be immense in goal for us. So we are just hoping that maybe for whatever they've seen in terms of their analytics, or because it's not recently that they scouted him. So for whatever they've seen, we hope that whatever they've seen can be brought to the fore for United. Outside of that, I don't really have anything to say for that transfer.
Honestly, Kelvin, I think before we wrap up, I've shared my thoughts a lot on X. I was having a very chill, calm day, and someone at Old Trafford decided to trigger a meltdown from me. I barely tweet on X anyway, but I went on a tirade. And honestly, listen, as big a club as Man United is, if you go into the market, you go for the best. We compare ourselves with the best. We say that we are as big as Real Madrid. Some people even think, and I'm sure Mangana believes in his heart, that Man United is bigger than Real Madrid. So if you go into the club or if you go into the market, you need to go for the best. And everything that you do has to be the best. Your standard has to be so high, it has to be the best. I don't think that going out to get Chelsea's fourth midfielder, right? At best, he's Chelsea's fourth midfield option. At best. Yeah. Chelsea starts with Enzo and Caicedo in midfield. When they need to make a change, they bring Reece James from right back to play in midfield. And depending on Lavia's fitness, there's a challenge between Lavia and Andre Santos for the fourth choice. So even
you can even drop Enzo.
Honestly, if Lavia had been fit, perhaps Andre Santos would be the fifth choice. And to spend £50 million on Chelsea's fourth or fifth choice midfielder, to me, is problematic. It's very, very problematic. No matter the profile that you are looking for, I don't believe, and I don't think anyone can convince me today that the type of midfielder that we are looking for, the profile in quote of midfielder we are looking for, Andre Santos is the best amongst them, or perhaps is the second best within that profile category. I don't believe that. No one can convince me that at all. So again, they've made a choice. I think it's a wrong decision. I've been wrong in my assessment of certain players. I'm a Man United fan. I hope I'm wrong this time, and I hope that he actually comes good. But for what I've seen from Andre Santos, I don't think so. I mean, hell, they didn't even make Brazil's squad. And Brazil's engine room is one of the weakest. They took Fabinho and Casemiro, combined age of over 70 years. They took them to the World Cup. The midfielder, Fabinho and Casemiro have a combined age of over 70 years. But they were taken to the World Cup and they didn't even look Andre Santos' way. A case can be made for Ederson that, listen, for Ederson, when they lost the fullback, they brought him on. So it means he was in the pecking order. But for Andre Santos, it means he wasn't even in contention. That alone is a red flag. He's Chelsea's fifth choice or fourth choice. And we are spending £50 million on him.
I think they are going to bring in another midfielder.
I think it's problematic.
I don't think they are bringing him in as a starter. So let's just see how everything pans out when the transfer window closes, because there's
Even
still
if
a
you're
lot of
not bringing
business to
him
be done.
as a starter for £50 million for Andre Santos,
The market
honestly,
is gone.
I'd rather go to the French league or go to the Spanish league. I've mentioned Papi Gay several times. Papi Gay is twice the
But
midfielder
Andre
that
Santos came from
Andre
the
Santos
French league.
will ever be.
He was in the team of the season for the season before he came to Chelsea.
It's in the team of the season in the French league.
In the French
I haven't
league.
seen that. I can't say much about it.
I'm telling you.
But you see, he's come to prove himself that he's Chelsea's fourth or fifth choice. That alone is enough to tell that we should not sign him as a non-starter or as a bench player. If you want another player to be a substitute, you know what? There's not we are discussing the World Cup. I think
Glory, my United. Glory, my United. Maybe this guy's going to give glory to Manchester United.
You know, the frustrating body.
Yeah, so that is it.
They've already made the deal. Relax. Let them
Andre Santos. Andre Santos, you like where you are going. Go, Mike. Michael Carrick has seen you. He'll use you to perfection. Thank you so much, gentlemen. No annoying part. Well, thank you so much for the time. It's been a very wonderful edition. Kwaku can rage after the tournament. Yes, we'll delve into club football properly. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Mangala. Thank you so much, Kwaku Safo. 8 teams left in the World Cup. 8 stories still being written. Some of these nations have been here before, chasing ghosts and chasing glory. You know, others are also getting started and they don't care whose turn it is supposed to be. France battle Morocco once again. Spain and Belgium in the thick of affairs. Norway and England with a very fierce battle. Argentina and Switzerland will be looking to surprise each other. 4 matches. We only need a winner from each side of the draw to walk into Texas and into Atalanta and into history of the final day in New Jersey. The world is watching. We at 50-50 Football Podcast, we are also watching with you. The pitch doesn't lie at any moment. And we'll wait to see who makes that progression into the final. Are we going to see another France, Argentina, England walk into another semi-final, or are you going to see surprises coming in, whether Morocco and then Norway, Belgium are going to surprise the rest of the world and get into, the semi-finals of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. That's it there for this episode of the 50-50 Football Podcast. Same questions next time. Who is ready to win? Who is fading out and who failed? And who is about to shock us all and who has eventually shocked us all? Until then, make sure you stay with us. Share this with a friend. All streaming platforms you can find the 50-50 Football Podcast. If you get to this episode and previous episodes, share with your friends. Banter, leave us moods, leave us your comments, leave us your questions and your frustrations. We'll get back to it the next time we come your way with a 50-50 Football Podcast. Until then, from myself, Kelvin Ouswanza, Mangana and Nasari, Kukusa Sadidi, we say enjoy the football and keep it 50-50. Don't go 100%. Keep it 50-50. Bye-bye.